Hi, I'm Fara.
And I'm Stephanie.
And this is Love Ends, Law Begins.
A divorce story.
Okay, we need to talk about one of the biggest mistakes people make in divorce.
Let me guess, marrying the wrong person?
I'm talking about picking the wrong divorce lawyer.
Oh, yeah, right. The rebound relationship that costs you 6 figures.
But let's first start with, how do you know when the marriage is over? I mean, obviously, if you're scrolling, is my marriage over, or divorce lawyers at 2 a.m., that may be a good indication. But what are your thoughts, Stephanie?
I mean, if you're becoming more roommates, you're keeping score, you're feeling completely alone, you're completely disconnected, you've lost trust, you feel yourself grabbing for your spouse's phone, trying to break in and see, I think those are telltale signs.
I agree with that. I think that one of the things that is really difficult to figure out is whether or not, okay, this is a time or it's not the time. Is there an important time when to say this is it, it's over, in terms of the legality of it all?
I think that if your relationship is becoming so volatile that, and you have children especially who are witnessing that volatility, I think that it is either time to get yourself into marriage counseling ASAP or to consult a lawyer.
Right.
Whether you ultimately go through with the divorce after consulting with a lawyer, that's a whole different story. But I think at least you need to recognize that there is a problem that needs resolution.
Right.
And I think especially when clients come to me, I'm always encouraging them, even though I'm in the business of divorce, and that's how we, make our living and what we've been trained to do. I think it's important to ask your potential client, are you in marriage counseling? Have you seen a counselor? Have you tried to work through these issues, and are they workable?
Right. I think also one of the things you're going to want to look at from the business perspective, if you are the moneyed spouse, like where you're at in your career. Mm-hmm. So if you're about to just sign a big contract, or transfer RSUs from one company to another, or you know that you're going to be starting a new business, that may be the time or a crossroads in your life financially, mm-hmm. where if you're unhappy, it may behoove you to see a matrimonial lawyer just to see what that means for you financially in the future.
Yeah, we do see a huge uptick, right, in our retentions after the new year. And it's not just because the ball dropped and everyone's like, oh, on to the next. I think it's more because the year-end bonus is coming, and they're looking to the future about how to protect assets at that point.
Right. And I mean, I think that it's also important, obviously, I've been married, 16 years, and keeping score, I mean, that's kind of part of my personality, right? So it's like,
we're divorce lawyers.
Right? So it's like, okay, that's not really a red flag for my marriage, but, I know that a lot of people just, the disconnection, the not feeling connected, the feeling like you're not able to be your best self in front of this person, the feeling that you're being judged, or that almost like you're a caged bird, and then when you come outside and you're with other people, you feel like you're flying. Those are all signs that, maybe it's time to either rejigger your marriage, or time to look into a divorce lawyer.
How do you go about finding a divorce lawyer?
Okay, I think the best referral source is a friend. So if you have a friend that's gone through a divorce, I think it's really important to ask them who they went with and whether they like them. And then, as we've discussed always, is why did you like this person? It can't just be about the results, because the results will be different in every case depending on
the circumstances and the facts.
Right, your assets, everything that's going on. But is this person someone that listens? Are they attentive? Do they call you back? Right. Yep. Do they hear what your end goals are and keep them in mind when they're negotiating?
Right. And do you feel, most importantly, that you can tell them every intimate detail of your marriage? Because holding back is never a good sign. If you feel that you can't completely be open and honest with your divorce lawyer, it's probably not the right relationship, because the bottom line is the truth always comes out in one way or the other, right? If you think you're smart in hiding assets offshore, right, we're going to find them. A good divorce lawyer is going to know where to find your assets. If you think you're being smart and not unveiling a new relationship, the bottom line is, I can guarantee you, your former spouse, right, has probably already figured that, there's an extramarital affair, going on.
I mean, now the thing is, when you first decide that you want to get divorced, I think it's also important, before you go through the whole process, not necessarily to make a big announcement and to start telling everyone I'm getting a divorce, because sometimes divorce may not be the right choice, right? Because financially, it may be very difficult for you, and you may be in a much worse.
Greener, right?
Right, you may be in a much worse position. In fact, I read this article that was very interesting. I don't know if you read it, but it was about the silent divorce, which is like more and more, because of the financial tying in the business aspects of a relationship, more and more couples are kind of just like silently getting divorced without actually divorcing.
Isn't it Oprah doing something on that?
Oh, she's doing something on gray divorces.
Yeah, gray divorces.
But the thing about the silent divorce is that basically, people kind of unwind emotionally, but they're still attached financially. And we see it like back when, probably about 10 years ago when I was practicing exclusively in the city, I did see a lot of couples basically living in the same apartment complex, but just getting different apartments. And so it's like they weren't married anymore. These people were actually getting divorced, but their lives were still so intertwined because of the children.
But I think people live like that for a while, and then you see, right, when the last child graduates high school, and they're really at that point in their life able to really become unmeshed, right? Because it's like a natural transition. They feel safe that there's no more children at home. We do see, right, that silent divorce that becomes not so silent. But the silent divorce isn't always best, because living in that type of silence and emotional state is not healthy.
No, it could be really depressing.
And it's really
sad.
depressing.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, you probably have a lot of life to live. So you should be happy.
Right.
And
Most importantly.
Right.
You should
and
be
there's
happy.
ways to undo your marriage in a very amicable, respectful way, if you want that.
And the start of it is not to pick a scorched earth type of litigator. So back to how you're picking your lawyers. The first thing maybe is to get someone from a friend. The other thing is that if you have lawyers in your life in other capacities, like your trust and estates attorney, peer referral is also a very big source of business.
Or your accountant is always a good referral. Sometimes your real estate broker. All of these different professionals come in contact with people going through divorces and are able to make referrals for you.
And then, some people do internet searches to see what type of accolades their attorney has, and to see what type of cases they take. They may look at cases and see if their attorneys are published and any kind of cases similar to theirs. I've gotten a few calls, and so have you. But so now, what type of questions do you want to ask your divorce lawyer in order to see if they're a good fit?
I think it depends on the particulars of your case. But speaking with regard to financial issues, I think you really want to make sure that your divorce lawyer understands finances, understands tax implications, understands if there's restricted stock, how that restricted stock vests, and how you divide it, an IRA, right? I think also you want to understand that your divorce lawyer is competent to handle custodial related issues and is open and honest about those custodial related issues. Let's be real. I started with the finances, but your children are, if you have them, are your biggest assets of your marriage. And I always like to start my representation addressing those issues first, because I find that for many clients, hearing, that their children are going to be okay after the process, right, is extremely important. But also understanding that expectations regarding custody need to be really managed. I mean, right, that's an important one. And so you want to make sure that your attorney's not overselling, because no one really has a crystal ball. If I had a crystal ball, I probably wouldn't be sitting here next to you, right? I'd be doing, well, of course I would, but I'd be doing something else.
Wouldn't we be having some wine and caviar or something?
Sitting on a beach somewhere, right? I think that it's super important that no lawyer oversells because
you have to be careful of the love bombing lawyers,
yes,
right?
oh my gosh,
and we've all had those. We've had the client that's called you. They've already spoken to 3 or 4 other attorneys. They give you a set of facts, and then you kind of give a little bit of your own assessment of how you think the case can go, the parameters, and they say, well, that's not what the other attorney said. They said, or he or she said, they're going to get me this, and that. And then it's like, okay, you've met a love bomber or someone that doesn't know the law. Because if they're promising you that, they're going to get your retainer in and then run through it on this unrealistic strategy, and then you're going to have to pivot. And as much as, I want to stroke someone's ego or be able to, tell someone what they want to hear, I mean, most importantly, we're there to protect them. Sometimes you have to protect the person from their own self.
When it's hard not to be that person's therapist and put those boundaries up because, I always tell my clients, if you're talking to me like I'm your therapist and I don't take insurance and I'm a lot more expensive than your therapist, right, is going to be. These are issues that you need to be discussing with your therapist, and I'm happy to work in tandem from my perspective, but I think, managing that is also a very important role that we have to undertake with temptation.
Actually, as a divorce lawyer, it is quite stressful for us. Like when I first started practicing, I think in the first year I'd have like grown men sitting across from me crying. I would have to sometimes get up and excuse myself and go to the bathroom, and I would start crying because I didn't know at that point how to externalize other people's stress, and I internalized it. So if a client would call me and they'd be frantic, all of a sudden they'd go to the top of my list and I would be frantic and I would be, and thank God with time I realized that that's not the best way. Feelings, you have to take the feelings out of it and you have to look at the facts.
And we're not our clients' friends. I mean,
as much as we become friends with them,
we do become very friendly with them because we're learning about the most intimate aspects of their lives. I mean, from sex to money to their kids to their family. They pretty much know it all, and it's very hard not to
get connected.
To get connected, but we do need to separate ourselves. Doesn't mean that we're not empathetic and that we don't care. It's just that I think we're doing our job.
I think that one of the first things when you get online or you go in person and meet an attorney for a consultation, it's a lot like dating. I mean, you will see if there's chemistry there. You'll see if you feel comfortable or feel judged, if you feel like they're paying attention to you.
Or you're one of 5 that he's already interviewed, right?
Right.
I mean, that I can tell right away. A former colleague who was a wonderful mentor for me used to call that the beauty dance, right? When they would call you, but you knew you were 5th in line.
That takes me into the whole consultation fee issue. A lot of people may feel turned off by the idea of having to pay a consultation fee. I charge a consultation fee. I know you do as well. And I think it's important for many reasons. One, it's our time, and we like to spend a lot of time with our clients or our prospective clients and really be able to understand the situation, not rush them off, and see if we're a good fit.
Right.
Both if I'm a good fit for him or her, or vice versa. But I think it is really important, though, to understand that we're not charging that hourly fee as like a punishment or something. It's just that we need to have the time and we need to be able to really assess what's going on.
And I think it's also important for the client to understand that whatever that hourly rate or that consultation fee you're charging is going to be part and parcel for the relationship that you have moving forward, right? Understanding that that hour goes pretty quickly, right? And so, once that relationship becomes more of a permanent after retention and you're spending hours and hours, those fees do start to add up. So I think it's a very good lesson from the beginning to understand how that consultation fee gets spent.
That's really a good point, Stephanie, because I think one of the things that people don't like to talk about right away in any relationship is money.
We talked about that last time, right?
In this relationship, it's one of the first things you should be talking about. What is your hourly rate? What's your retainer? How am I billed? What are there other attorneys going to be staffed on the matter, and how does that happen? Because it does happen where people will call me and they'll be like, oh, I forgot this, I forgot to tell you this, and they're going on and on about many different stories. I don't mind hearing it, but the clock is ticking, and this really has nothing to do with my pendente lite motion
or the
met,
strategy of my case, or
right.
what I think a court's going to feel is important. I understand that the client may feel it's very important to tell me,
Right.
but sometimes I have to push the client
Push them
forward
on, right.
away off a subject because I know it's completely irrelevant. But sometimes I do feel they need to vent, so it's important to understand there's like a fine line between importance and letting
Right.
a client vent and feel heard. You know, we are here to allow them to be heard too.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's important. One of the things that I typically see when I'm like scrolling on Facebook or on Instagram, someone saying, I need a bulldog lawyer.
Yeah.
I need someone that's going to be
worst.
so fierce, right? And I think the problem is that many people mistake kindness with weakness. And that's not what it is. Remember, this is not a regular litigation. This is your family.
Yeah.
This is someone that you once loved. These are your children. This is your money. This is the most important things in your life. You want someone that's going to treat it very importantly and delicately.
With respect.
And with respect. And you don't want someone that's going to go scorched earth. You don't want someone to burn down the house.
No.
You want someone that's going to help get you the house.
Correct. And you also want someone who the courts respect.
Yes.
And sometimes that bulldog is not necessarily the most respected. A friend of mine, actually, a colleague in the city, called me yesterday to tell me that not as a result of anything he did, but as a result of something his adversary did, the judge actually kicked them out of court. For the attorney who was trying to act as a bulldog, right? The court didn't want to hear it and kicked everyone out of the courtroom.
Yeah.
And if I was the client paying my attorney a ton of money, that was the last thing that I would want to happen. It's embarrassing. So I think that there is also that fine line. I mean, the two of us can get up on our feet and handle ourselves quite well, but hiring a bulldog is not necessarily going to mean that you're going to get the best results at the end.
Right. You need someone that, because matrimonial law is multifaceted, you need someone that knows how to write and understand contracts. You need someone that could get up on their feet and litigate. You need someone that could sit and lend an empathetic ear. Because all these things are very important in this area of law, which is different in other areas, where in other areas of law you may just need to read or review contracts. Or if you're a litigator, you're just up on your feet fighting in motions. But as a matrimonial lawyer, you're doing it all.
And we're triple threat. I mean, think about it, right? We really are. We're negotiators, we're litigators, and we're strategists, right?
Yeah.
So we really are, and we can go add a fourth, maybe going part-time therapist. So we are really, need to be skilled in many areas, which also leads me to think about when choosing a lawyer, do you want a small firm or the benefits of a big firm? I know you and I have basically always worked at larger law firms, and I prefer to be at a larger law firm specifically because I feel that matrimonial practice is so collaborative in nature. People come and they have houses that need to maybe be sold, or a business that needs to be severed, or something that needs to be valued, or even a will, rather, right? That needs to be rewritten.
And prenups, which we'll be talking about next time.
Right, and I like to have trust and estates attorneys and real estate attorneys and corporate attorneys and trademark attorneys and whatever at my fingertips so that my file and my client stays all in-house. I mean, but with that being said, at a smaller firm, those attorneys have their resources as well and know exactly who to contact.
Yeah, I mean, some of the boutique matrimonial firms, they have like their trust and estates people that they deal with all outside of the firm, but they do have good resources as well. And then there's a solo practitioner, which usually the rates will be a little bit lower, which is nice. But if the solo practitioner is on vacation or sick, or there are other things going on, who's covering the cases? And some of the emergencies do come up. I mean, we're not doing brain surgery, but we are dealing with the most important things in people's lives. We're dealing with their kids, their finances, and we also deal with domestic violence. So there are emergencies that come up, and it is nice to have a team behind you during those kind of circumstances.
Right. I hope we've imparted upon you the best and given you some information and food for thought on how to pick a good lawyer.
Yes, I think it's really important that that relationship be a good one, because you do spend more time with your matrimonial lawyer during this hard point in your life. So you want to be able to trust them, you want to be able to feel good about the relationship, you want to be able to feel that you could be open and honest, and you want to feel like you have good chemistry. And I mean, I think a lot of our clients we do wind up being friendly with after, because we have that type of relationship with them. Next time, I think we really need to talk about the dirty secrets with money and Prenups.
I agree. I think that would be a great next podcast.
I hope you tune in next time where we discuss prenuptial agreements, the ins and outs.